Well, at the end of a long day, sometimes you just need to sit back and talk about sports. And for myself, even though I've been at a stadium all day, I cannot wait to talk about Steelers football with my good friend David DeSantis here on Boardman Black and Gold. David, we've got some draft people to talk about because the NFL draft is in Pittsburgh in just 3 days. And this is a big deal because we have a lot of options and we also have a couple of big needs, but we also have some really interesting scenarios where we don't know some of the things that are going to happen. And it's interesting. And I'll ask you this question to start. Do you feel like this draft has more unknowns than previous drafts? Because in my mind, I feel like the Steelers haven't always taken who we think they're going to take early on. But even then, I think that this draft just has so many unknowns paired with it. What do you think?
I agree. I think that there isn't really, I mean, we say, oh, first round wide receiver, but like, okay, we traded for a wide receiver. We also added a cornerback. We also, we're filling these pieces kind of already, and then we're not going to talk about it really at all because today's the draft, and we talked a lot about quarterbacks, but there's the cloud of Aaron Rodgers holding us hostage. So there's just a lot of things where it's like, okay, we're maybe set there. We might be good. And I feel like in years past, it's like, all right, first round, Najee. We were going to take a running back. Kenny Pickett. We knew we were going to take one of those two quarterbacks. Derek Harmon, I can't remember how shocked I was last year or not. I feel like I wasn't too shocked, but it definitely wasn't like he wasn't the guy on my card per se. So I think that this year, I don't know what they're going to do, honestly. I know what I want them to do per se, but with the amount of picks that they have and the amount of moves that they've made this offseason that were very impactful at different positions, it really is, I agree, hard to say who's going to go where and who we're even going to take.
So let's start with that. Who do you want? What do you want them to do early on? Because I think originally we said that we want wide receivers early, but the way that it looks, the wide receivers that we thought were available might not be available when we want them to be. So with that all in mind, what do you think is the best train of thought for us to take coming into round one?
So round one, I think that we should still go wide receiver. I have one guy in mind, and this guy, when we first talked about it, I originally crossed him off because I said I wanted a guy who could be a real number two, a big body on the outside. But we have that in Michael Pittman. So my favorite wide receiver of the draft opened back up to me, and that's Denzel Boston.
Hmm.
He is, Washington, Big Ten guy, love the Big Ten. And something I really like about him is, I mean, obviously he's playing on the field, but he was at Washington, I think, every year of his college career and waited behind a decent amount of guys early on, which I can't stand the transfer portal and the NIL and stuff. The event NCAA is listening. I think that they should do a one transfer cap on each player. But I really respect not leaving, earning your way into a team. And like he talked about his coach, is from the NFL and like they coached for NFL. They coached to make you an NFL player. So I like him a lot, especially now that we already have a for sure number two. I really think that he could be really useful for this team.
That's interesting because it is a name that we didn't really talk about the last time around when we were kind of talking about the wide receiver prospects. Right now on the board, Denzel Boston is projected as the 45th ranked player overall. He's also ranked the 8th wide receiver in this draft. So, like you said, big body guy, very husky. I mean, he's a guy that you like the intangibles about him, the loyalty aspect of things. That's a cool thing about him too, which I'm absolutely on board with that as well. Here's the question. If he's sitting there at 21 and it seems like the way that the wide receiver, the way that they're being taken in the first round, if it's not there where it's like maybe he's the 8th ranked wide receiver, but there are only, 5 or 6 wide receivers taken off the board, with the amount of third round picks that we have, could we theoretically trade up in the second round to maybe take him there? What does that do in your mind?
I think I like that idea because I do think that, like you said, he wasn't a name we really talked about. There's a lot of other names here and a lot of other names that I like. I don't know how many of them will get dropped to us, but I think that would free us up a lot. And I think that with those third picks that we have, we could trade up to get him in the second round. So what would you, if we were to say do something like that, where would you want this first round pick to go?
So here's what I would say. If I had it my way, I would use those third round picks especially as assets. I wouldn't use them as picks. I would use them to move around. If we need to pair both of them together, if we need to pair one with something else, I would try to do that to move up into the second round or let our second round pick move up in that round. And right where it seems like the sweet spot is for your guy here, that makes a lot of sense to me. And that frees up our first round pick too. I think that you also like the linebackers in this draft. And I'm kind of leaning towards that way too, especially since I think that Patrick Queen might be our best trade chip right now, because it seems like he's kind of in this limbo area of the Steelers where, yes, we invested a lot in him, but the play on the field hasn't always been indicative of that. I would say that if you can use your first round pick on a linebacker, I think that that would really do us a lot of good. Now, it's interesting because your boy, Sonny Styles from Ohio State, he's going to be probably in the top 10 of players picked in this draft entirely. I'm looking down, and the next best linebacker, according to NFL draft prospects, is not going to be until early in the second round. But here's the thing. Maybe you can trade back in the first round and get some other assets or something along those lines, and maybe take a guy like Jake Golday from Cincinnati. Something along those lines where it's like, yes, he's the second-ranked linebacker in this draft, but you're also getting that value of the slot where he's at, that you're not having to reach high, kind of like we've done, I feel like, with guys like Roman Wilson in the past, where we're reaching a little bit too far to get the guy that we like, but it really just, it kind of sets us back. I feel like in this specific draft, with the amount of assets that we have, there should be no reason why we have to reach, because we can move our assets around to where we can take a guy right at the slot that he's supposed to, if that makes sense. How does that track for you?
Yeah, no, I like that a lot. I like being able to have that flexibility and not overshoot like you were saying have done in the past. And I think that it's just a sad fact that unfortunately Sonny Styles and like Arvell Reese and like they're not going to be there when we get there. And are they worth trading up for with what other needs we have in the draft? I don't consider it worth it because I think that there's a lot of other linebackers in this draft, especially when our picks are. And so I do like that a lot. And the Jake Goldday number, hey, staying in the state of Ohio, that's not bad. The Josiah Trotter from Missouri, I think that he's like a big body, led the team in tackles in his only season there. So I think that he is, a possibility. One thing, I don't know anything about him, but I just saw where he goes to college, and I'm like, well, Mike Tomlin's gone, so maybe, who knows? Maybe this is different. But Kyle Lewis, goes to Pitt. So I'm like, do we just do what we always do? And they're like, oh, he's in our locker room automatically. He's coming. But I think that there are other guys that you can get with the picks that we have. And I would love to see us take one of these guys.
It's funny you say Kyle Lewis, because I was actually going to mention him as well. I think that's actually a really decent option. I think he's going to be a good NFL player. And, maybe I have a little bit of Pitt bias myself, and maybe that's dangerous, but it's not Kenny Pickett at 21 type of territory in a draft that is historically terrible for quarterbacks. So I like Kyle Lewis, and that might be a nice kind of back end idea that we can take. Obviously they would be very familiar with him. And I mean, he's been very good at Pittsburgh. He's, again, a guy that's probably around like that late second round to early third round. Again, we got plenty of third round picks, so you can move those around if you're liking that guy. Here's the issue that I'm finding right now. It seems like every guy that we want at the top is just simply not going to be there. But every guy that we would theoretically take in the first round, we don't really need to take him in the first round. We can wait a little bit and probably get them with a later first round or an earlier second round pick, something along those lines. So right now, I feel like I don't like our spot. I don't like our spot at all. If we were bad last year and we were like an earlier, like a top 15-ish pick, I would feel a little bit better, because then that means that second round pick is also top 15. But right now, with us being at 21 in our first two picks, I just don't like the slot that we're at. And it's kind of making me wonder if they're just going to go back on what they've historically done and maybe just take an offensive lineman, which we did identify is something that we still need. But what do you think about that prospect?
It's definitely something that we still need, but I think that it would kind of be a bit of a waste to go in the first round. And, you know, I like what you're thinking of, like trying to make something happen with our picks of, okay, let's either you're right, because our pick position isn't anything special. That's what happens when you get 10-7 and you're a wild card playoff team. So it's maybe we should get off the middle of the line trade and either all right, let's trade back and get one of these guys we know we can get at the end of the first round, or let's trade up if we really like someone and we really want to take them or something. I would love to see us do something like that. I would love to see some maneuvering kind of with these third round picks we've talked about, potentially with this first round pick of either moving back or moving up, or, just taking one of these guys earlier than maybe they're projected. So I think that the first round pick should be a wide receiver or a linebacker, in my opinion. But if we're looking at the offensive guards, there are a lot, and there are some that are projected to go early. I know the Penn State offensive guard, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he's highly praised. And, Penn State, they play the football. That's how they play the game, right? With their two running backs that they had there. One guy that stuck out to me was Keelan Rutledge out of Georgia Tech. He was a back-to-back all ACC player. So I think that that's just high quality. And I don't think he's going to be, an early or even mid first round pick. I think, he'll be a little bit early, but I don't think he'll be that early. So I think that there's some depth here in the offensive guard player position.
So again, it's the same conversation because it's like he's not in the slot that we want him to be in. So here's another wild question. What if the Steelers take best available in the first round? Like, what does that do for us, regardless of what position it is? And I'll look at it just to give you a little bit of context. If we were to take best available as the draft board currently sits right now, we would take Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, who is a senior safety out of Toledo, which I know we said that we don't really need safeties, but hey, Deshaun Elliott coming back. He's coming off of an injury that kept him off for a long time. We just got Jaquan Brisker. What if we swap Elliott for something and we try to, if there's a team desperate out there for a safety, maybe that makes sense for us. Maybe we can find our way into the first round again. Maybe use maybe use our second round pick to move into the first round. I don't know. I feel like, again, the way that I'm just looking at this as we go, this is a sandbox for Omar Khan. If he doesn't take advantage of the assets that he has at his disposal, then I think that this draft is a complete failure, because I think that he should be on the phone, double phone, Kyle Dubas style, like, hey, what can I get for this? What can I get for this? Who can I take here? Who can I take here? Can I package you with this and get this? Like, I think that that's what it has to be. And if it's anything short of that, I might even be upset, if I'm being honest.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I think that if we come out of, honestly, day one, but especially the rounds after that, and we haven't made at least one trade, that's extreme disappointment, because it's a waste to just use all these picks knowing that a chunk of them aren't really going to do anything. And you could box them up and you could create these packages. And I specifically okay, we're at the 21st pick. Who really needs a safety? Like, how can I leverage you right now and use that to my advantage? Even maybe, yeah, like trading back in the first round, taking their first round pick, or, you know, figuring it out. I would love to see something of that nature. And if we do think, all right, this guy's going to be here, whoever we want in the first round is going to be here at this pick, and we can leverage this team, I would go for it. Like, I think that, we've seen Omar Khan go crazy, and it's like, don't stop now, because you have a lot of weapons at your display to really take advantage of this draft.
And here's the other thing. This just happened, yesterday? Dexter Lawrence goes to the Cincinnati Bengals for the 10th overall pick.
Insane. I saw that, and I'm like, man, we've obviously made some moves, but our division is besides the Browns, our division is one to get tougher. Like, the Bengals, I feel like it's do or die for the Bengals this season, and they just made a huge move that, probably hits the weakest part of their team. So we've got to do something too. It's like the Ravens go get Trey Hendrickson and are making these moves. It's like, we got to make a move too. We got to be like, all right, we're at the table too. Because I feel like the moves that we've made, though I like all of them, I feel like more like, oh, that's a good additional move. That's good. Like, we need that in our depth. We need that here. we need something that's like, oh, the Bengals got Dexter Lawrence, the Ravens got Trey Hendrickson. Oh, the Steelers did this. Like, we need that in this draft.
Absolutely agree. Now, here's something that I saw in the last couple of days, and I want to get your opinion on it. It seems like that the Steelers have a lot of surplus with edge rushers. You got to figure TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Jack Sawyer, Nick Herbig. That's 4 guys. Here's the question, and I see you smiling. I think you know what I'm going to say. Do you trade one of them? And is it so far that you trade a guy like TJ Watt or another guy like Alex Highsmith to really leverage the situation that we have at hand and get some assets and use it on stuff that we truly do need at the slot that we have them?
Here's what I'll say. Okay, that's a good question. I would say ultimately yes. I do think it's worth it because our edge rusher room is overflowing. And I think that all 4 are solid. I know we haven't seen Sawyer that much, but from watching him at Ohio State and even the plays we saw, I think that he's NFL caliber. TJ Watt. This is the hindsight's 2020, and it's a huge what if. But if he does what he did like these past 2 years, like, yeah, trade him. Because it's like, we're paying you big dollars for a big name, and you're doing what Nick Herbig or maybe Jack Sawyer could do. And for sure what Alex Highsmith could do. So, like, yeah, if you can go out there and give me 20 sacks, absolutely not. Be with us forever. But I feel like he's got to wake up. Since that defensive player of the year, he gets injured the next year. That was unfortunate. And then these past 2 years have just been very like, okay, like he makes plays here and there, but he wasn't the game wrecker that he was prior to that injury. So I'm like, if you can get back to that game record, no, don't trade him. But if not, yeah, he's getting older. He's past his prime, most likely. Who knows if he turns it around this offseason. But I think that that's a very viable option if you could get a high enough pick for it.
Here's the ask, though. The fact that it's in Pittsburgh, does this complicate things? Because if you trade your literal franchise cornerstone, what does that do from a PR perspective? Which we talked about last week. It seems like that the Steelers are in PR heaven right now. That would sure as heck put you in PR hell.
You're absolutely right. I don't think that the way that the Steelers love PR, I don't think that they would make that decision because, yeah, a rain of boos would come into that area. Like, I think that it's almost worse. I'm trying to think. There was like a great player that was taken by the Jets. Or no, I think it was I don't know. Somebody was drafted by the Jets, and I think it was in New York, and Jets fans went absolutely crazy in the worst way of like, boo, this is the worst. Like, why would you do this? It's the worst thing ever. And then they ended up liking him, I think. But it was like, that's going to happen if the trade is made and TJ Watt is the guy. If it's any of those other 3 guys, I think it's, oh, okay. And depending on who we pick, too. Like, here's what I'll say. If you could trade up to get, like, Sonny Styles or Arvell Reese, oh, man. Like, if we're going to get what we've got the past 2 years with Watt, go for it. And I think that even you might be able to do that with Highsmith. And it's so hard because I love all of these guys. Like, all 4 of them I love. And they're just, Steelers at the heart. So it's really tough, but you could get something really good.
I'm more so on the train of Highsmith, and as much as I hate to say that, because I've literally met the dude. Like he's a North Carolina, like a Wilmington, North Carolina guy. I literally met him when I was working at my first ever internship. He's a great Christian guy. Like he's just a great guy. He's a great football player. But I think that you just have to do it. You got to rip the Band-Aid and be like, hey, we've got a surplus right now. We have an option to really do some damage early on in this draft. If we pair a guy like that in there, that's an option, and it has to be an option. It has to be on the table. And I've seen some rumors about Alex Highsmith being floated around in trade talks, and especially if Dexter Lawrence, who, yes, he's an unbelievable player, didn't have the greatest of years last year, and he's kind of on the decline. This is the type of guy that you would trade in this situation to take advantage of the market and say, all right, let's get this big fish right here. Let's just, again, rip it off, rip the Band-Aid off. We love Alex Highsmith. We're very happy for what he did in Pittsburgh. But this is our next step. This is the way that we make our team better right now with the roster construction that we have at our disposal. This is what we just have to do. As hard as it is to say, I'm willing to do that. And I believe you are too.
I would agree. And I think that as much as I talked about TJ Watt, I think that TJ Watt there makes any edge rusher against him better. And so I don't think Alex Highsmith's stock will be higher than it is right now. I think we saw this with Bud Dupree because Bud Dupree really didn't do much earlier in his career. And then TJ Watt comes in and Bud Dupree is getting double digit sacks. So I think that TJ Watt's still going to do that, even garner that respect, whether it's Highsmith, Herbig, or Sawyer on the other side. And it's going to make the other guy look better. And I think that if you look out of those three guys, all right, who's the oldest? It's Alex Highsmith. And it would be very sad, and it would be, a rough goodbye. It'd kind of be like, I feel like almost at a different level. But when we traded Minka away, it was like, oh, like what? Like that's one of our guys. Like that's a Pittsburgh guy, and so. But it could be worth it, and that's what it's got to be worth it. And I think that there are players in this draft where it could be.
I'm looking at guys like Sonny Styles, which again, it seems like he's up and down these draft boards. I've seen some where he's like in the top 5, and I've seen some where he's just inside the top 10. Again, I don't know what the valuation aspect of this is, but again, it just seems like with the things that we need, we're not quite at the level to take them, and we're too high to take them where we are. So, I mean, if that's the case, then what do you think we could maybe do with this wide receiver situation? Because we're looking back again at Casey Concepcion, Mekhi Lemon's back in the equation, Carnell Tate with Ohio State. There you go. There's another Ohio State guy. Like those are some of the guys that might give you options if you trade a guy like Alex Highsmith, and it gets you 10 picks ahead of what you were originally going to pick at. So, maybe, I mean, it's a question. It's just a general question.
Yeah, I think that if you were to trade up there to get a higher wide receiver, I would go with Mekhi Lemon or Carnell Tate because I think both could be really good in the slot. Mekhi Lemon specifically has that build, and Carnell Tate, I think that he's even though he's so high up in the draft, I think he's still a little undervalued because maybe his physicals aren't as good as the next guy, or his speed isn't as good as the next guy. But he is an elite route runner, and I think that if you've got the two big guys on the outside and you let him just absolutely route up whoever he's on in the middle, I think both those guys could really excel and succeed in that role. And, if we get up to that spot, if we get up there and Sonny Styles isn't there, it's like, let's take one of these top receivers that, we wouldn't have gotten otherwise.
Yeah. I'm looking at this too, and it's kind of going back to our conversation about Dak Prescott last week. Now, I'm not gonna go hard on that again because I think I overstayed my welcome last week as far as that goes. But here's the question. So the Cowboys are picking at number 12. They need a guy like Alex Highsmith, don't they? It's worth asking. It's worth asking, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how the Cowboys, like, where'd they come from, but it's true. They're dying for defense. It's pretty crazy where they're at right now and what they could be with a solid, just an average defense. So I think that there's someone you could definitely take advantage with saying Alex Highsmith.
Man, this is just such a strange phenomenon because I feel like, again, in years past, the guys in the slots that we need are positional needs. We don't have a lot of positional needs this year, but we need to take advantage of this draft because we're in a spot where we really can do some damage with the roster that we have, but it just doesn't seem like that the cards have aligned the way that we need them to align without actually doing something to change the cards. Like right now, we got to shuffle some things up, and if we don't, then we're kind of just, again, we're handcuffing ourselves in a way, and I don't know the best option. I've looked at this, and I just can't figure out what to do, frankly.
Yeah. What we said at the beginning of this episode really is like, what are we going to do? Like there's so many avenues that could be taken and opportunities that could be at our disposal that it's like, okay, but which one is actually going to be the plan that happens? And it's really hard to say because we just, don't know what they're thinking.
I'm actually looking at this now, and I missed this on my first go round. The Cowboys have 2 first-round picks. They have number 12 and number 20, which number 20 is directly ahead of us. So, again, you gotta manage the assets well, but, who's to say we can't trade up for that number 12 pick give them our first round pick, which would essentially just give them a back to back. They can take whoever two they want, 20 and 21, and then we hand off whatever third, fourth player, whatever that is. It seems like that has to be the avenue, at least in my mind right now, because I'm looking at it. There's not a whole lot of other teams that are doubling up in the first round, but the Cowboys are one. And again, with the surplus that we have defensively, it seems like that could be an option. What do you think of that?
I think that is they are the team that I think we could attack, specifically if we want Sonny Styles, because I think that's I don't, again, Sonny Styles has gone up and down, so who knows? But I think that they're a team that really want him and they really want defense. And so it's like, if we're really going for him, obviously we can still get a wide receiver at that 12 spot. But I think that there is leverage to be had with the Cowboys, especially I didn't know that they had that other first round pick too. So I think that they could be a doorway into getting higher in this draft.
So if Sonny Styles isn't available, so say pick 12 comes around and Sonny Styles isn't available, which by all looks, it seems like that'll probably be the case. If he's not available, do you still try to trade up and get a guy like KC Concepcion in that spot if he's also available? Or do you just wait it out and you say, okay, the ship sailed, and then from there we say we'll trade back and we'll try to manage our assets from there?
Yeah. My gut would say probably hold off just because of how much I like Denzel Boston, because that feels like a safety net to me. But I know how much you like KC Concepcion, so it's tough. I don't know if I would. I think if Sonny Styles wasn't there, and especially if like Carnell Tate wasn't there, because I don't think he will be, and I'm not sure if Mekhi Lemon will be or not. I would assume he won't be, but I think that if he's not there, I don't know if it's worth it. But what are your thoughts?
In my mind, if they're not there, then you just trade back. I think you take your medicine, and if Concepcion is there, then you think about it. If you don't like it, you can move on. You could say, okay, that's fine. Then you can move back in the first round, just find a way to manage your assets to where you get multiple second round picks and you can really take advantage of that. Now, again, with the PR stunts that we've got going on in Pittsburgh, if the Steelers trade out of the first round, that would look really weird because it's like, okay, here's the entire city of Pittsburgh. Where's our first round pick? What are we going to do? Like, why don't we have a first round pick? And, it's valid because, like we said last week, this kind of opportunity only comes around sparingly. But at the same time, again, I'm of the opinion that you either shoot for the moon or you back off. I don't like the slot that we're at. And if you don't move out of it some way, whether it's up high or going back down, then you're doing it wrong. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. No, and I think that like, it's a great point. And it's like, are we going to reach for the stars? Are we going to draw back and get the guys that we know we could get anyways if we went back? And I think that, they already announced John Stallworth as the first round pick. So I think that it's like Pittsburgh's thinking there's going to be a first round pick. So we'll see if it's going to stick at that 21 or move back a little bit or move up. That'd be crazy.
So you're not like fibbing me with this first round pick announcer? What do we got going on here?
I will reassure right now, but I am like 99% sure that he is doing the pick. I thought I saw that. I'm gonna check right now. Let's see. Oh boy. I think I saw it on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, you're finding stuff on.
Yeah, I think it was the Steelers that posted it. And I was like, oh, okay, that's for sure. Because also I think that, okay, yes, I am right. Let's see, John Stallworth, Joey Porter Sr. and Joey Porter Jr. will be announcing picks, which is cool. And then also, AI is telling me Jerome Bettis is confirmed to be in attendance. So he may announce a pick or two. But, oh, wait, he might announce number one because John Stallworth, I think, is slated for the second round. So
we got the bus in the first round and then Stallworth in the second round and then Joey Porter Jr. and Sr. somewhere in there too.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but maybe they stacked it up because they think they're going to try and get 2 first round picks.
That's an interesting. Ooh. Because why would you make why would you make John Stallworth and or Jerome Bettis announce anything less than a first-round pick, right?
Right. It's like almost like you got two guys with gold jackets on. You gotta put them both in the first round.
Uh-oh. What do we got going on here, David? This is interesting.
Found the code.
Oh, we might have cracked it. Omar Khan, we are in your brain. We know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, what do we think? Do we think we've covered enough on this? Like, do we think we've talked intelligently enough about what we think's going on in the first round? Because again, I'm still just kind of spinning my wheels here, and I don't know. I just don't know.
I think that the last thing we can talk about, and we can make it quick because I think that we've exhausted everybody with our quarterback conversations. But as much as I don't like it, I do find it highly likely that at some point in this draft, we're going to take a quarterback. So out of all of these guys, who do you think is realistic and someone that you take?
Okay, I guess we'll talk about it again. Okay. I'm going to go down the list and I'm just going to say yes and no because I feel like that just makes the most sense. Fernando Mendoza will not be there at 21. Ty Simpson will be there at 21, or at least he should be there at 21. And I'm still going to say no. I think that would be a gargantuan mistake if they were to take Ty Simpson at 21. Garrett Nussmeier, I don't mind him. I kind of don't hate the idea of Garrett Nussmeier, but only if it's one of those third-round picks that, it's just like kind of a like, okay, here you go. Like this is just thrown on. I'm okay with that. The next one, Cole Payton out of North Dakota State. We talked about him a little bit last week. My dad also talked about him 2 weeks ago. I'd be okay with that. But again, this is like that last third-round pick or like a fourth-round pick, something like that. Taylon Green from Arkansas, I know he visited the Steelers, and he's, again, probably a day 2 or a day 3 guy. I don't really hate it. At the same time, not a huge fan. Drew Aller. No, Drew Aller.
That's right.
Carson Beck. No, Carson Beck. Cade Klubnik. No, Cade Klubnik. And now we're getting into the Will Howard tier of quarterbacks at this point, which I mentioned Baron Morton from Texas Tech last week. It's like, okay, he's a day 3 guy. And if it's a day 3 pick, fine. That's okay, because we got plenty of day 3 picks. Again, it's like, okay, why do we do a day 3 pick when Will Howard was already a day 3 pick and we're thinking that this guy is the next Tom Brady that we just picked up in the 6th round? Like, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Now, one other guy I want to get your just like initial like take on, and I haven't mentioned him. I don't think we mentioned him on this podcast either. Diego Pavia from Vanderbilt.
Oh,
don't think too hard, David. Don't think too hard.
I don't like him. Especially like after the stuff he pulled with the Heisman stuff, I think that he would be a really, really bad. But that's someone that you're throwing in. I know that you're kind of like mediocre, a little high on Garrett Nussmeier. I'm a little negative on him. That would be like throwing him in with like Carson Beck and Drew Aller and Cade Klubnik. Those guys is like absolutely not. So, but I will say, yeah, I agree with basically everything that you said. Ty Simpson, I don't hate as much, probably because I just haven't seen as much of him. And he just, looks like an athlete, but I don't really know much about him. I guess if he were picked like a little bit later, which he probably wouldn't be there, I wouldn't hate it. But again, I wouldn't probably be jumping up and down. If we were to take a late round guy, I'd probably go with the Taylon Green guy because, he looks like a good prospect, someone who could be developed well. Or two other names that stick out to me a little bit, and this one not so much, and I probably wouldn't be happy if we took it, but Luke Altmaier out of Illinois. I think that he showed some interesting things. I don't know if he's an NFL quarterback, but, Big Ten. And then Joey Aguilar from Tennessee. I think that, Tennessee didn't come through in the clutch moments. I mean, what else is new? That's a Tennessee thing. I don't know if that's a Joey Aguilar thing, but the offense was pretty good, and I don't know. So those are some names, but again, it's one of those drafts where I'm like, hold off. I think the class is going to be better next year, and you could probably get someone better quality later in the draft, the next draft.
Yeah. I think that we're still aligned on that. It just doesn't make sense as much as it probably will happen against our will. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. And if it's a day 3 pick, sure, fine. If they're there, they're there. Take them and go. Just take them and leave. I don't care. Get them away. But again, if it's a guy like Drew Aller, Carson Beck, Cade Klubnik, sure, it's a day 3 guy or maybe a late day 2 guy, but they're not going to. I don't like it. Now, here's the interesting thing is you don't really like Garrett Nussmeier. The only reason that I say him, because I really don't like him either, he's my guy in this draft that I feel like is just the dark horse guy that nobody thinks is going to really pan out, but that he's going to pan out. I think he's like he's that guy for me because there's usually one or two of those guys in every draft, especially at the quarterback position. There's a couple of guys where they drop, they're not very highly touted, but they figure it out in the NFL and they do really well. And again, like I mentioned last week, McCarthy can develop some quarterbacks. Nussmeier didn't have the best of times at LSU, especially with, again, LSU not being the juggernaut that they have been in years past. But I think that he could be that type of guy that slips a little bit, is not necessarily a day 3 guy, but maybe a day 2 guy, but that we could develop and he could be that dark horse guy that pans out.
I think you make a fair point because LSU was during his tenure was definitely in some turmoil in their leadership, and it makes you think like, what would Nussmeier have done with Lane Kiffin, who's now there? So that's a good point, and we'll see what happens, but it'll be really interesting. I remember when Kenny Pickett was taken on day 3 or day 4, my parents somehow got these like tickets where like there was a little like watch party going on, like kind of like activity for kids at Heinz Field. And you got to like, throw a few footballs around, like do a few things. And I went with my freshman year college roommate and we got to see like Kenny Pickett walked like 10 feet in front of us. And like this was right after he was picked in the first round. So it's like, I know how much the Steelers love that. And so it's like, I would find it hard to believe that we don't walk away with a quarterback after the 4th round. But like, we're on the same page and hopefully we don't.
Yeah. I don't like the quarterbacks in this draft, and I haven't for a long time. Like I've been on this. I mean, we talked about it several months ago when the Ole Miss quarterback, I'm forgetting his name, it's blanking on me. Oh, Trinidad Chambliss. When he decided that he was going back to college, and then who's the Oregon guy?
I know who you're talking about. I can't put a name to it.
I can't figure out his name right now, but he also decided to go back to college, and it's like those were the 2 guys, and it's like maybe, not even a yes, but just a maybe, and then they're gone. So it's like, what's left? Like, don't try to force a square peg into a round hole in the quarterback situation in this draft because it's just simply not there. So don't mess with it. If you mess with it later on, sure, like I said, grab it and go. Get out of my sight. But don't waste a pick this early, especially when we have 4 identifiable needs early on in this draft.
Absolutely, I completely agree, and I think that yeah. I mean, we haven't had a good quarterback class in a long time. I mean, I feel like we haven't had a stout quarterback drafted since like Joe Burrow, which was in like 2020. And it's like, dude, like why? We don't need to do that. Like all these other franchises are stuck in either something horrible or something real mediocre. And it's like, we're okay. Like right now, since Aaron Rodgers is in there and our OTAs, uh, Will Howard is listed as our number one quarterback. So it's like we've already got a guy that we'll see what happens. We don't need another guy to be like, well, we'll see what happens. It's like we got one. Thanks.
Right. Don't double up on it. We don't need any more quarterback controversy after, especially what we had with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson a couple of years ago, because you've always said it very eloquently. If you've got 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks, and that's just the truth of the matter. So find your guy, stick with him, ride or die, and if it doesn't work, then, pivot next year. Figure it out next year. But as far as it goes right now, find out the right thing to do, especially staying away from quarterback early on.
I couldn't agree more. And yeah, I think we need to just choose. And I think the Steelers have chosen. Like, I think they want Aaron Rodgers back. And so it's like, okay, just hold on that. And if not, stick with Will Howard. Like, stop with the multiple choices. Because yeah, what you said, that quote, it is true. Like, you need one guy. You need the guy. And you can't play every field and expect a guy to be like, oh yeah, I'm your guy when you've done X, Y, and Z.
Final question before we go. the chances that Aaron Rodgers signs with the Steelers before this draft concludes?
I'd say unlikely because I was actually at work today. I was looking at a couple of reports and I saw a few posts today where they were like, don't be surprised if he hasn't made a decision by the draft. And I saw a report that said like he's definitely not coming back. I saw a report where it's like the Steelers are expecting him back. So I don't know. Aaron Rodgers, I feel like he thinks the whole world just kind of revolves around him. And so I don't think that he cares about the timetable of the draft or anything. He's more focused on his timetable. So we'll see. Hopefully he retires and says no, but we'll see.
Yeah. I say there's a 0% chance. I don't think there's any chance that he signs before the draft concludes. I just don't think that it's, again, if he hasn't signed yet, what reason does he have to sign in the next 5 days? There's no reason. Not a reason at all.
Right. Especially if he does it during the draft, who's going to talk about it over the draft? You do it post-draft, that's all you got to talk about.
Right. He's all about the media. He likes the spotlight. He wants to be seen. He wants people to know what's going on with his saga. You know, he's not going to do it now. He's not going to do it during the draft. He'll wait. And even after the draft, like, heck, he might wait 4 or 5 weeks. I mean, it's still a long summer. The draft is like, it's not like any other sport where it's like there's the draft and then there's, maybe a couple of months, or whether it's even during the season or whatnot. You still got, 4 months before you do anything? Something like that. It's like he can sign whenever he wants, in his mind, probably.
Yeah, especially because I don't see him playing a snap of preseason. So, and when did he sign with us last year? Was it June or was it May?
Oh, it was late May, I think. Late May.
I could see a similar timetable happen again because it's like, why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he? If we're going to let him, he signed with us on June 7th.
Okay.
So, and that was coming into a brand new organization. And now it's like he knows his organization. Granted, the playbook and everything will be very different, but he knows McCarthy. I think that it's like, why wouldn't I wait till June 7th again when I can? But they're going to let me.
Yeah, no reason not to. So, well, that's our draft talk. We talked at length about the options that the Steelers have had. I don't know if we came to a concrete answer, but we talked about it, I guess. We did our time. We punched in and we talked about it. So we appreciate you all listening once again to the Boardman Black and Gold podcast, which is always sponsored by Zecca Enterprises, crafting furniture solutions in northwestern Pennsylvania. You can call 919-406-4679 to turn your furniture problems into furniture solutions. Make sure you follow the Instagram account at Boardman and Gold. We will be posting stuff as the draft is happening with all of the reactions that we've got live for the draft. So keep an eye on that. And hey, if we make a big move, then you'll hear about it because that's a big deal. And we'll break down the entire draft next week. Whenever that time comes around, we'll get the full scope of everything that went on. We'll dive into the picks like we've done in years past, and we'll break this down. And I'm interested to see what the Steelers are going to manage because if we're talking about 12 guys this time next week that they drafted, at bare minimum, I'm going to be upset because it's like I don't think we should be drafting 12 guys this year, frankly.
I completely agree. I don't think we have the roster room for it, especially with the free agent choices we made, building depth in a lot of areas. There's just not room for 12 new guys to make it onto a 52-man roster. That means that 12 guys right now would not be on our 52-man roster, which is just insane. So I don't see that panning out. And I hope that they know that because I think that that's a pretty easy thing to see.
It has to be because if I see it, then it's definitely easy. I'm not a football guru. I'll be the first to admit that. I just happen to talk about this. Frankly, I like to facilitate the conversation to you because you know what you're talking about. If I can see it and it's plain as day, then I would sure hope that Omar Khan and company sees it.
Well, and I think that funny enough, I think that our collective weakest point in the NFL is the draft. And I think we mentioned that last year where it's like, it's neither of our strong suits. So, but I think it's fun in that way of like, I feel like most fans, go into the draft, like there's some names they think about, but like no one's like deep dive and doing the study and in numbers. And it's like, so we're just like everybody else, like, well, here's these guys, here's these trades, here's all this stuff. And like, we'll see what happens. And I think that it opens the door for a lot of fun. And I think like all the other fans, we'll be on pins and needles in this day one draft. And I'm so excited to see it in Pittsburgh.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I'm going to be interested in what they're going to do because, again, I don't know what they're going to do. And if they do something crazy and it's good crazy, then I'm going to be jumping up and down. I'm going to be ecstatic because I'm honestly kind of expecting it at this point, because it just does not make sense for them to just sit on their hands and do nothing with what they're doing right now. So I'm excited. This is going to be a fun draft. Thursday night in Pittsburgh, a historic event. Like, this is a big deal. It's a big deal for the city of Pittsburgh. There's going to be a lot of people on the North Shore. It's going to be a great time, and we'll be watching it from afar. Unfortunately, I'm not going to the draft, but I'm going to watch very intently when that time comes, and it's going to be a good time. And like I said, we'll break it all down next week. Myself, Zane, and David here on the Boardman Black and Gold podcast. Thanks as always for listening. It's been a pleasure, as always, putting these together, especially this offseason where we've kind of had this drumbeat of consistent uploads each week. So we hope that you guys are enjoying those. And we will see you next week for the breakdown of the Pittsburgh Steelers draft. Have a good week. Please don't take a quarterback.